During Operation Midnight Hammer, the U.S. bombed Iran very heavily. It destroyed 3 of Iran's most important nuclear sites. That was actually good news for Russian President Vladimir Putin, at least in one way. Because the U.S. was focused on Iran, President Donald Trump's attention shifted away from the war in Ukraine. With the U.S. distracted, Putin was able to keep fighting his slow war without worrying about pressure for peace. But now things have changed. After the successful mission in Iran, Trump is now demanding that the Ukraine war comes to an end. The big question is, does peace actually have a chance? Between June 24th and 25th, NATO leaders held a summit in The Hague. Trump attended the event, and he made some interesting comments about both NATO and Putin. Former British military intelligence officer Philip Ingram spoke about these comments on Times Radio's Frontline show and gave some important insights into how Trump sees the Ukraine war right now. First, let's look at Trump's comments. When asked about how the U.S. would respond to Article 5, Trump gave a long and somewhat scattered answer that touched on both NATO's Article 5 and the Ukraine war. Just to explain, Article 5 is NATO's key rule. It means that if one NATO country is attacked, all other members must come to help. This rule has only been used once, after the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the U.S. in 2001. Trump was asked about it, because many NATO members worry whether he would actually support them if Putin attacked one of their countries. His answer, thankfully, should help calm those fears and might also send a strong warning to Putin. Trump said, "I stand with it. That's why I'm here. If I didn't support it, I wouldn't be here," Trump told reporters. He then moved on to talk about the U.S. bombing of Iran during Operation Midnight Hammer and what it could mean for the war in Ukraine. You can learn more about that mission in our video called B2 Operation Midnight Hammer just obliterated Iran. But the most important point from Trump's comments at the NATO summit is this. Putin offered to help, and the U.S. said no. Some great statements just came out from the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission and from Iran, as you know, that it was a complete, total destruction, Trump said. And CNN turned out to be fake news as always. That's why they have no credibility. That's why they have no viewers. Trump then criticized CNN even more, accusing the network of disrespecting the U.S. pilots who carried out the bombing mission in Iran. Then he shifted to talking about Putin. When Trump was asked if he thinks Putin has plans to take more land beyond Ukraine, he replied, "It's possible. It's possible. I know one thing. He'd like to settle. He'd like to get out of this thing. It's a mess for him." He called the other day. He said, "Can I help you with Iran?" And I said, "No, you can help me with Russia. You help me get a settlement with Russia. And I think we're going to be doing that." Trump ended by saying, Vladimir Putin really has to end that war. People are dying at levels that people haven't seen before for a long time. There's a lot to break down in these statements, as Philip Ingram explained. The first, and probably most important message that Trump sent to Putin at the summit in The Hague is that the U.S. supports Article 5. That's bad news for Putin. He had hoped he had planted enough doubt in Trump's mind that Trump might be willing to turn away from NATO's united defense policy. Back in March, that actually seemed possible. The Guardian reported back in March that Trump made comments suggesting the U.S. wouldn't help a NATO country if it was attacked and hadn't been paying its fair share. It's common sense, right? Trump said from the Oval Office, "If they don't pay, I'm not going to defend them. No, I'm not going to defend them." At the time, Trump argued that NATO members should be spending more money. And now, that's exactly what seems to be happening at the summit in The Hague. NATO members agreed together to raise their suggested defense spending to 5% of their national gross domestic product by the year 2035. Trump was thrilled with this decision. It's a monumental win for the United States because we were carrying much more than our fair share. It was quite unfair, actually. But this is a big win for Europe and for actually Western civilization, the BBC reported Trump saying. There was a lot of debate going on beforehand as to whether the United States would live up to that agreement, Philip Ingram explained. But Donald Trump has been quite clear in what he said. In simple terms, the U.S. is now fully backing NATO again because Trump got what he wanted. Other countries increasing their defense budgets. That's bad news for Putin in 2 ways. First, he still has to deal with the U.S. if he doesn't end the war in Ukraine. Second, NATO countries are now spending more on their militaries than ever before. Both of these things give Trump power. They help him push for peace in Ukraine while reminding Putin that NATO is stronger and more serious now. Now, what's even more troubling for Russia's leader is something else Ingram pointed out. Trump admitted that it's possible Putin might have his eyes on more than just Ukraine. Ingram said, "I was intrigued to see Donald Trump saying this. It's that Vladimir Putin may have ambitions outside Ukraine and elsewhere."